learn the chapter Human Reproduction. Human beings are sexually reproducing viviparous organisms. You know what are viviparous organisms? The organisms that give birth to young ones. They give birth to young ones. The reproductive events in human reproduction, that is sexual reproduction, can be listed out like this, or can be sequentially written like this. The first one is gametogenesis. Gametogenesis is nothing but the formation of gametes. Then insemination. Insemination is introducing the gametes into the female body. And once the male and female gametes meet, they undergo fertilization. Then they develop into blastocysts. The blastocysts get implanted into the uterus of the female body. Okay. Gestation is a period where the embryo gets implanted and the fetus starts developing. The period of pregnancy is called as gestation. And finally, the parturition. Parturition is nothing but childbirth or delivery. Okay. So these are the events that happen during the sexual reproduction in human. Now let us move on to male reproductive system. We know very well that human beings shows prominent sexual dimorphism. That is, with male and female, they do differ from each other by a number of sexual characteristics. So sexual characteristics can be classified like as primary sexual characteristics and secondary sexual characteristics. Primary sexual characteristics are present in both male and female since their birth. Right from their birth, certain characteristics are found. They are called as primary characteristics. The secondary sexual characteristics are developed during their puberty. That is during the period of adolescence, like facial hair, in the case of males, low-pitched voice, then development of mammary glands, then high-pitched voice in females. So these development that happens during the puberty or during the adolescence is called as secondary sexual characteristics. When we come to the organs, we can classify the organs as primary sex organs and secondary sex organs. So primary sex organs are the one that produce gametes, and the secondary sex organs are the one which do not produce gametes or hormones. So these are the primary sexual organs are the one which produce gametes and hormones, whereas secondary sex organs do take part or do help in the process of reproduction, but they do not produce gametes or sex hormones. So such organs are called as secondary sex organs. So in the case of male reproductive system, testis is the primary sex organ, and the other parts are the which we listed here, like accessory ducts, glands, external genitalia. These can be put under the secondary sex organs. Now let us go into the details of male reproductive system. So as I mentioned here, testis is the primary sex organ. So you can see this is testis. In male, there is a pair of testes on either side. Then there are accessory ducts. Ducts are nothing but the tube-like structures which carry the gametes. Then there are certain glands which secrete certain substances which help or which nourishes the gametes. And finally, the external genitalia through which the gametes are released out. So let's learn about testis first. Testes are called as male gonads. We call it as male gonad, and it is the region where the male gametes, what are the male gametes? Sperm. So it is a site where the sperms are produced, and it is located outside the abdominal cavity, and it is protected with a membrane or a pouch-like structure called scrotum. So let's talk about the structure of testis. Each testis is oval in shape, and they are suspended in the scrotum with the help of some spermatic cords. So the spermatic cords helps the testis to get suspended in the scrotum. The outermost covering of the testis is formed by a dense fibrous membrane called tunica albuginea. It is a thick fibrous membrane that covers the testis. So testis is found inside the pouch pouch which is made of a skin, folded skin, sensitive skin, and that skin pouch made of skin is called a scrotum. And if you look at that structure of testis, so this region is testis. Okay, so this testis is covered by a dense fibrous covering called tunica albuginea. And when we look at the section of the testis, so inner to that, this is tunica albuginea, inner to the tunica albuginea, we can see numerous compartment-like structures called as testicular lobules. Testicular lobules are compartments. There are around 200 to 300 compartments, and those compartments are called as testicular lobules. So you can see these are each lobule. So likewise, around 200 to 300 lobules are found inside the testis. And if you look into the lobules, each lobule will have highly coiled, highly convoluted tubules called seminiferous tubules. So these seminiferous tubules are found inside each testicular lobule. So each testicular lobules may contain 1 to 3 seminiferous tubules, and they are highly convoluted, that is highly coiled. And surrounding the seminiferous tubules are blood vessels, nerves, which are found in the loose connective tissue. The pouch-like scrotum is highly significant because the testis must be kept in a temperature 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius lower than the body temperature. So it should be less than 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius lower than the body temperature, because only at that temperature the formation of sperms will be supported. To ensure that the scrotum surrounds the testis, and testis is located outside the abdominal cavity. And interestingly, this testis actually originates inside the abdominal cavity, but later when the fetus developed, during the 7th month of its development, these testes descend down to the scrotal sac through a passage called inguinal canal. Now let us learn about the cross section of seminiferous tubule. So we have already said that each testicular lobule has highly convoluted seminiferous tubules. So let us look at the sectional view of seminiferous tubules. So each seminiferous tubule, so consider this is one seminiferous tubule, this is yet another seminiferous tubule. So each compartment which you see here is a seminiferous tubule cross section. So if you look at the cross section of it, it is lined inside to it, it is lined by two types of cells. One is called as Sertoli cells, which is otherwise termed as nurse cells, and the other one are germ cells, that is spermatogonia, germ cells from which the sperms develop. So Sertoli cells are tall pyramidal cells which provide nutrition. They provide nutrition to the developing germ cells, whereas spermatogonia undergo mitotic and meiotic to form the sperms or spermatids. Outer to the region outside the seminiferous tubules, that the region which you see is red in color, this region are interstitial spaces, and they contain the interstitial cells or Leydig cells, small blood vessels as well. And these interstitial cells or Leydig cells are very important because they synthesize and secrete the hormone called androgen. Also, these Leydig cells are endocrine in function. They are endocrine in function and they regulate the male sex characteristics. Also, immunologically competent cells which gives immunity, which imparts immunity, are also present in this interstitial region. So we spoke about the primary sex organ. Now let's move on to the secondary sex organ. So primary sex organ is the testis which produce the male gametes and the hormones. Okay, so that's clear. Now let's move on to the secondary sex organs. So secondary sex organs are the accessory duct system and the glands. So we are going to talk about the glands first. The male reproductive system has three major glands. The first one is the seminal vesicle. So in this figure you can see the seminal vesicle here. So these seminal vesicles secrete mucus and an alkaline fluid which is watery, and this mucus as well as this watery alkaline fluid has fructose in it. So this fructose has got certain significance because they act as an energy source for the sperm. So this fructose has got something to do in forensic science, that is, the fructose produced by the seminal vesicle is not present anywhere else in our body secretions. So in forensic tests, when they test for forensic tests for rape, the presence of this kind of fructose will confirm the sexual intercourse in a rape case in forensic studies. Next comes the prostate gland. You can see the prostate glands here. So this prostate gland secretes a milky, slightly alkaline fluid. Still it is alkaline, and this contains lipids, enzymes, and small amount of acid in it. And prostate gland secretes this during the time of ejaculation. And during the time of ejaculation, what it does is it helps to neutralize the acidic medium of vagina so that it can make the sperms more active in swimming, so that they can swim more actively towards the uterus. And next you can see the Copper's gland or the bulbourethral gland. So you can see it here, and they secrete mucus and alkaline fluid. So it again a mucus and alkaline fluid, and this is secreted into the urethra, and this mucus helps in lubrication of penis, and also it neutralizes the urinary acids if any, and you can see that it is situated beneath the bladder just behind the urethra. So this is the urethra. Converge and they join to form, so you can see small straight tubes here, and these straight tubes are called as tubuli recti. So the ends of the seminiferous tubules will join together, they converge and form small or short straight tubes. They are called as tubuli recti. Now this tubuli recti opens into a network of wider tubules you can say, and those wider tubules, those network of wider tubules are called as rete testis. And this rete testis will further open into vasa efferentia. So this is vasa efferentia. So rete testis opens into vasa efferentia. This vasa efferentia is finely ciliated, which facilitate the movement of sperms. And several vasa efferentia open into the epididymis. So you can see here it opens into epididymis. So this is epididymis, this coiled one, and this epididymis carry the sperms outside the body. So this is epididymis which carries the sperm outside the body. And in the epididymis, actually inside the epididymis, they will be occurring increased motility. They will be more active, and they will get their fertilizing capacity. That acquiring fertilizing capacity is called as capacitation. So that happens inside the epididymis. And inside this epididymis, they will be staying for a short period, and then it will enter into the next tube called vas deferens. So in this figure, you can see the vas deferens clearly. So epididymis will be coming out, and they come out as vas deferens. So from either testis, from two testes, if two testes are here, from either testis, epididymis comes out as vas deferens. So a pair of vas deferens will be coming out from each testis. And this duct, you can see this duct passes through the glands. Now you can see from the testis, epididymis comes out as a vas deferens, and the vas deferens joins the glands, the accessory glands. And the first accessory gland is the seminal vesicle. Now this vas deferens ascends to the abdomen, loops over this urinary bladder, and then it receives the duct from the seminal vesicle, and from that onwards we call it as the ejaculatory duct. So vas deferens come over here, it gets the secretions from the seminal vesicle first, and then from then onwards we call them as the ejaculatory duct. So then the ejaculatory duct opens into the prostate gland, and then it opens through, and then the ejaculatory duct passes through the prostate gland, and then it opens into the urethra. And this urethra actually originates from the urinary bladder, and it is extending till the penis. And this opens into the external opening here, which is called as the urethral meatus. So this region where the urinary bladder opens out externally is called as the urethral meatus. The urethra carries urine from this bladder along with the spermatozoa. So whenever this urine has to be passed, it will be coming out, and when at the time of ejaculation, the sperm along with the secretions, it comes out. Now the secretions, which I said that along with all the secretions from the glands, which we have learned less, like seminal vesicles, prostate gland, bulbourethral gland, and the secretions from all these glands together forms, along with the sperm together form the seminal fluid or semen. Semen is actually a white fluid. It provides the medium for the transmission of the sperms, or it helps the sperms to move right from the testis. It enters inside the body and come out through the external genitalia. Also, it nourishes and activates the sperm and keep them viable and motile. And one of the major component of this semen is zinc. When zinc is low, below a certain level, it has been associated with infertility. So the presence of zinc in semen has something to do with the viability and the motility of the sperms. Let's look at the structure of penis. The penis has two regions, the shaft, which is the body, and the glans, or this region, which is the head region. The penis is made of actually a spongy tissue, which is called as the corpus spongiosum. And at the tip, this one is actually, it's looking enlarged, a bit enlarged, and we call it as glans penis. And this region is actually very much sensitive, and this region is covered with a foreskin, and this foreskin is otherwise called as prepuce or foreskin. And penis has got erectile tissues and blood vessels and vascular spaces, and these vascular spaces, it tends to get filled up with the blood, and that results in the erection, which helps in the ejaculation. Next, let us talk about the female reproductive system. So as we said, in female reproductive system also we can just categorize it as the primary sex organs, that is the organs which produce female gametes and the hormones, that is the ovaries. Then the associated structures like ducts, uterus, cervix, vagina, external genitalia, the mammary glands, and everything together we call as the secondary organs. Let's talk in detail about the primary sex organ, that is the ovaries. You can see this is the overall structure of female reproductive system. A pair of ovaries. You can see the duct, oviducts, and this is the muscular bag, uterus. Uterus opens out into the vagina through cervix, and vagina is the birth canal, and then comes the external genitalia. In addition to that, female have mammary glands, as we are viviparous organisms. Now let us study the structure of ovaries in detail. Ovaries are actually almond shaped structures, and it is found in pair towards the lower part of our abdomen, and they produce the female gamete ovum along with the female hormones. Ovary is actually attached to the uterus with the help of a ligament called ovarian ligament, and it is also attached to the or fixed to the lateral pelvic wall because it is found in the pelvic region. So it is attached to the pelvic wall with the help of suspensory ligament. So to the uterus it is attached with the help of ovarian ligament, and to the pelvic wall it is attached with the help of suspensory ligament. If you look at the structure of, or if you look at the section of ovary, so this is a section of a single ovary, and you can see that the outermost layer is made of a germinal epithelium. The outer layer is made of a germinal epithelium, and inner to the germinal epithelium is the ovarian stroma. So this entire thing we call it as ovarian stroma. In the ovarian stroma, you can find a lot of connective tissues, blood vessels, mature follicles, all these are found. Now this ovarian stroma can be widely or broadly categorized as the peripheral outermost region, like towards the germinal epithelium, the peripheral region as cortex, and inner region as medulla. And you can see the cortex region has the ovarian follicles, whereas the medullary region are rich in the neurovascular network, which we said that blood vessels and connective tissues are found more towards the medulla region. And here comes the accessory ducts which help in the collection of the female gametes and its movement. So now you can see here a pair of ovaries. This pair of ovaries are attached to the uterus as well as the pelvic wall with the help of the ligaments that we discussed earlier. And now you can see the duct. So the ducts here are the oviduct or the fallopian tubes. And this fallopian tube open into a wider duct which we call as the uterus, and then it opens to the yet another duct which we call as the vagina or the birth canal. And if you see at the fallopian tubes or oviducts, we can categorize them as infantibulum, ampulla, isthmus, and the uterine part. This infantibulum region is a broad funnel shaped region, and see, look at the edges of this infantibulum. They have finger like projections, and these finger like projections are called as fimbriae, and this fimbriae helps in collecting the ova when it is released from the ovary. Once the fimbriae collects the ovum, then it is passed on to the next region. So the next region is ampulla. Ampulla is a long, wide, thin walled part of the fallopian tube. You can see the ampulla here, and it is wider. It is found next to the infantibulum, and this is the region where the fertilization occurs. And followed by the ampulla is the isthmus. It's a short, narrow lumen, and see, this ampulla region is wider, and when it comes towards the isthmus, it is narrowing down, and this isthmus joins the uterus. Like it acts like a bridge between the ampulla and the uterus. Followed by the isthmus is the uterus, which we commonly call as the womb, where the fetus is developed. It's almost 7.5 centimeter in length and 5 centimeter width. It's like inverted pear. It will be looking like an inverted pear. And we already said that the ovary is attached to the uterus with the help of certain ligaments. And this uterus is also attached to the pelvic wall with the help of ligaments. And this uterus lies between the urinary bladder and the rectum. If you look at this, get the side view of a female reproductive system, you can see that it is located between the urinary bladder and the rectum. And this uterine walls are thick and highly vascularized. And this uterine wall can be classified as into three areas. That is outer membrane, the outermost layer. The uterine wall can be categorized into three layers. The outermost layer is called as the perimetrium. This perimetrium is a thin membranous layer which covers the uterus wall. And the middle layer is called as the myometrium. And this myometrium is made of smooth muscle fibers. And this myometrium helps the contraction of the uterus during the delivery of the baby. So the muscle contraction or the pain which we get. The inner endometrium, it is glandular layer with lot of blood vessels, and it is the layer and this is the layer which undergoes the cyclic changes during the menstrual cycle, which leads to bleeding. Also, you can see that this ovary is opening into this vagina or the birth canal through a narrow region which is called as the cervix. So this region is called as the cervix. It acts as a narrow entrance of the uterus into the vagina. So the baby comes out from the uterus and it enters into the vagina, and through the vagina it's coming out. So that's why we call it as a birth canal. So this region has got strong sphincter muscles. Sphincter muscles will be mostly closed. It will be open only during the parturition. And this is plugged with mucus. The cervix is actually plugged with mucus. Now, what is vagina? The uterus opens into the cervix and it comes into a broader pathway or the canal which opens out through the external genitalia. So coming down to the vagina comes the external genitalia. External genitalia will be coming down here. So this region is called as the birth canal. So birth canal along with the cervical canal. Cervical canal plus vagina forms the birth canal. And through this cervical canal and the vagina, the menstrual flow happens, as well as the baby comes out during parturition through this region. And this opens out by an aperture called vaginal orifice. So vaginal orifice is the opening of vagina outside. Then what is the external genitalia in female? So this is an opening, vaginal opening. And this external genitalia is called as the vulva. So this is the external genitalia or vulva in female reproductive system. So this region, that is mons pubis, it's the anterior most structure of vulva, and it's fully covered with skin and the pubic hair. And you can see two longitudinal folds called labia majora or the outer labia. The outer labia forms the outer boundary of the vulva. And then two additional fold is there, that is inner labia or labia minora. This both labia majora and labia minora protects the vaginal wall. And you can see this is the vaginal opening. And the urethral opening is just beneath the vaginal opening through which the urine comes out. And you can see a small organ here called as the clitoris. Clitoris is actually the erectile organ, and it is found at the upper junction of this labia minora, which is above the urethral opening. And this resembles, or it can be compared to the glans penis of males, and this is actually the sensitive part of female reproductive system. And you can see this vaginal opening is covered partially or completely by a thin mucous membrane, which is called as the hymen. There is a myth where this hymen is considered as an indicator of a woman's virginity or a sexual experience. But it is not true that only during the sexual intercourse or the first sexual experience the hymen ruptures. No, it is not the case. There are cases that hymen ruptures when that female gets stretch-ups, and sometimes during vigorous physical activities, or sometimes even at the, you can see on either side of this vaginal orifice or the vaginal opening, a pair of glands called Bartholin's glands is present. So the function of this Bartholin glands is to produce to secrete a clear viscous liquid, and this is secreted during the time of sexual excitement in females. And this fluid serves as a lubricant, which helps the copulation process to be easier. The next gland present in female body are the mammary glands. These are paired structures which we commonly call as the breasts, and they get functional only during the reproductive period, only during the gestation period. And these are rounded paired structures, and in its middle there is a nipple region, and this nipple region is surrounded by a circular pigmented area which is called as the areola. And this gland is richly surrounded with variable amount of fat here. So the amount of fat deposition varies from one person to another. And this glandular region of the breast is divided into many lobes which are called as the mammary lobes. There are around 15 to 20 mammary lobes are present. And this mammary lobes contains clusters of structures called alveolus or alveoli. And this alveoli open into mammary tubules. And this cells of this alveoli actually secretes milk, and this milk is stored in the cavities or the lumen of alveoli. And these tubules join together to form the mammary duct. You can see the duct here. So these tubules join together to form the mammary duct. And this here, just below the nipples, you can see here, there are few sinuses here in this region, there are few sinuses which stores the milk during lactation. At the time of lactation, here in this sinus, the milk is stored. Several mammary ducts together form the mammary ampulla. So here you can see many mammary ducts together, joined together to form the mammary ampulla. And this mammary ampulla is connected towards the lactiferous duct. Just before the lactiferous duct, you can find this lactiferous sinuses where the milk is stored during lactation. So when the baby sucks the milk out, from the lactiferous duct, it is sucked out.